The Chesapeake Bay is quite an interesting environment. I mean, it's a very long estuarine system, so it's over 200 miles long. And I also had a chance to go out in the Delaware Bay. So I want to talk a little bit about a little comparison here, because the first bay I went out was the Delaware Bay, which has a big river coming in, so something similar to the Chesapeake Bay. It's a lot smaller, but there's not really other big rivers coming into the Delaware Bay. So we did some chemistry and it looks very interesting in terms of dynamics, sources of carbon and so forth. But then I went out into Chesapeake Bay and everything changed. I thought, I can have a little nice comparison of large estuarine system with the Chesapeake Bay bigger than the Delaware Bay. But it turns out that the Chesapeake Bay with all its tributaries is quite dynamic. For example, when we started at the northern side of the Chesapeake Bay, so there's the Susquehanna River coming in. It's almost fresh there. It's very, very low salinity. It's like a big river, really. And then we sampled on the research vessel U-Sharp out of Delaware. So we crossed over from Delaware through the canal into the Chesapeake Bay, and straight away started sampling. And then we saw a very dynamic system evolving when we went to the other biggest rivers coming in, especially the Potomac River. You see that plume of fresh water coming in and going northwards at the mouth of the Potomac River. We wanted to get very specific salinities for gradients so that we can nicely space it out between fresh water and full salinity. We had the hardest time to get to a good salinity there because of that very dynamic mixing of that fresh water coming into that mid-salinity range of the bay. And we were going only hundreds of yards. Everything changes because the tide was coming in, and that really taught me a lesson about how dynamic the system can be, even though we think about the Chesapeake Bay as a slow mixing environment, a nice salinity gradient, but in some areas it can be extremely dynamic. So that was fun to try to catch a specific salinity. And then we went all the way to the mouth of the bay, which is still, talking about hours and hours on a larger vessel, because they go maximum 10 knots. So we were cruising on 8 knots. Takes some time to get to higher salinities because that's where we wanted to get. And if you do that on a ship which goes 8 knots all the way from the Susquehanna River to almost Norfolk and to the real opening where the Chesapeake Bay really opens to the Atlantic, it's surprising how long that actually takes. You're hours and hours on the ship. I mean, we spent 2 days on the ship actually doing the transit out and coming back. And that was the first cruise I had in the Chesapeake Bay on a larger vessel, where we really went all the way from one end of the bay to the other end, meaning from the freshwater source all the way to the open Atlantic. And it's just a lot of things to see. The scenery is changing, you get the different rivers coming in, you cross places where there's a lot of population, and you see little communities and little islands. You see from the water side, you see also differences between the shores, the really shallow shores on the eastern side, and then you see the cliffs developing on the western side of the Chesapeake Bay. It's a beautiful sight. Yeah. So the bay is a very interesting system, but it has also its unique features just because of the several big tributaries, the sheer size of it, and all these dynamic nutrients coming in and influencing it, or the seasonal pattern, seasonal changes. And of course, I also love to go out recreationally just for rockfish, meaning striped bass fishing. I like go fishing, and I have a little boat now which I can take out, and I tremendously enjoy just being on the water, just also on a personal level.